You know what it is. It's your boy, SHEM-E or XYZ. SHEM-E or Namaste on Meet the Innovators Radio at B100 Radio SC. What up, Big Plug? What
With
up, Pig? I
Shem.
see you.
Sounds like Nas was right. How was he right? Cole let him down. Hip hop is dead. And when he said it died, I think he was right. I don't think you're ever going to get Nas to say that the battle is something we should probably move beyond. I don't think you can get Nas, Queensbridge, to say that the battle is over. I don't think you can get KRS-One, one of the pillars. Like, see, it's these guys, KRS-One, Kool Moe Dee, problematically speaking, African Bambaataa, are Kool Herc are the actual pillars of this, and actually the ones who can say if we've moved past the culture. Like, I think we heard a lot of doublespeak, right? We heard a man say that it's not money that gets you there, it's character. So if it's not money, then where is your stake in voicing where the culture should go? Because from my perspective, money's always been your calling card. Like, literally growing up in 96, 97, I'm 11 years old. OG's telling me I don't understand this because the money talk that you're doing. That age, I was a Nas fan. I was a bigger Outkast fan. They weren't talking about money. They were talking about social ills. They were talking about the hood. But there was a transition in my life where I started making more, professional moves, and I started gravitating to a different lifestyle. Who brought us to that? That's where we're having an issue. And for, let me slow down. And for artists like Jermaine Cole, it seems like you're not confident in your work. And that is disturbing to me. These are the takeaways that I've taken from these interviews. Okay, so the Nadeska interview, shouts to Nadeska. And even shout out to, I think his name is Franklin, or he's been a Jay-Z fan for a long time. I remember him at Complex. They're the same frameworks. All these interviews are the same frameworks. They come from the same framework style, right? The whole Apple Music, Complex, GQ. They're very controlled journalistic style interviews. Very much questions are screened before we talk. Best believe that is known. And I think you're dealing with individuals who are savvy enough to know that they can't fully ignore it. They don't have to fully address it. Do you know how people that are media trained, do you know how they work an interview? When they want to let the journalist get to a question, but they don't really want to address it, they allow them to blurt the question a little bit. They allow them to hint, because they know, as a person is having a conversation, you know where a person's trying to get to, right? You know when Shorty says, we need to talk, and you know deep down what she wants to talk about. So when she starts talking, sometimes you be like, okay, since you want to talk about this, that's exactly what happens. Except you have two different individuals that handle it two different ways. Handled it vocally the same way. Oh, since I'm glad we can talk about this so we can get to this. Okay, once you get to it, did you allow the question to be had? Or did you over talk? See, that's what happens. It sounds like, it sounds like they gave them an opportunity to talk. Well, I think they were prepared for the question, A, and they knew once the question was initiated, they can give a good 2 to 3 to 4 minute type of response. It's going to fill the air so much with word salad. Nobody's truly being impeccable with their word, and you forget what the question was. It happens in law all the time. Now you have Jay-Z, who's a veteran of this, who's sat in front of people multiple times. I want to say the last interview that I remember of Jay-Z was actually Kevin Hart, if you guys remember that one. Kevin Hart's not a journalist. Kevin Hart is a podcaster, a comedian, and Hove went there and was comfortable because he knew Kevin Hart from Yay High, just like he knew this particular interviewer from Yay High. So there was never going to be a course where a true challenge was going to happen. There was also a point where you can see the difference in veteranship. With Cole, Cole has this. See, what happened was, and then another thing, then boom. So, you know what I'm saying? See, boom. Shows a lack of confidence, shows a lack of agency. Body language just tells you, anytime you see someone's eyebrows consistently raised when they're talking, a couple of things are happening. First of all, they're triggered. Right? They're triggered and they are not at ease. And C, they might be lying. Then you have Hove, way more measured. A lot of eye contact, not a lot of body motion. Just a little hands here and there, When a guy's asking a question, he's locked in right here. And he's like, this. And he's like, well, I'm glad you asked that because, I'm Hove, right? And I think that we could do a little bit better in this particular country, in this culture, if we get past these particular moments where we um, have seen the worst of ourselves, right? He sounds way more diplomatic, way more measured, way more self aware of the situation. But both interviews are technically saying the same thing. They're technically saying stand culture and media and all of these things are ripping artists particularly apart. They're saying that we lack the couth to be able to distinguish between music and aggression. Like the women didn't have battles all the past, let's say, 2.5 years. Megan was dragged through the mud. Nikki was dragged through the mud. I want to say Erica Banks just called out Megan Thee Stallion. The industry loves to play like, oh, we're going to support the women. Now we're going to support. What y'all do is y'all throw a bone out for the women when y'all don't know what to do with the big three and let the women do it. And then once the big three starts moving, y'all discard whatever the woman is. And then the narrative locks in on these three individuals. There are just three individuals, dog. They're not that transformational in the everyday society of life, but they're transformational in this entertainment culture because you guys are profiting off of them. So what I've noticed is there's this discussion where it's like we're gonna move past this particular battle while discussing the battle. Like any media trained person, if they want to get past something, you know what they say? I don't want to talk about that. I think we moved past that. Let's focus on this album. They don't do that because the battle is still on. You know why the battle is still on? Because K Dot hasn't said a thing. They're waiting for K Dot to come out and wave his white flag and say, guys, that was just fun, guys, just like how Drake did. Let's get to the summer vibes. But the problem was K Dot wasn't with that program. K Dot said, no, we're done when I said we're done. So you have one party that wants to play kumbaya and we all should get along because we're just making music and y'all guys were my dogs before. You have one guy who assumes that he's the top of the charts and nothing can defeat him. He won't fall. He won't fall to the wayside. He's done dada top shotter. You know what I'm saying? All your bitches gonna holler. Like that's Drizzy the guy from the six, right? You got that going on. You got the media guy. Then you got the hungry motherfucker who's always felt that he's better than these two guys, but he's cool with one of the guys, but he really wants to aim. He just wants to shoot straight through to make sure you get to the other guy, right? So the guy that's ready to be shoot, he feels like this is his moment. So he's using every bit of visibility to get, a moment for Baby Keem. He puts out a great project, GNX, which is a totally West Coast feel top project. After the beef, just knew to just drop that shit right there. So this is GNX is his beef record, right? Might Delete Later came before the beat time. The fall off was supposed to happen next, right? Cole just said that. So the fall off is his beef record, not Might Delete Later. The fall off is his beef record. The only issue is he didn't have any beef material on the record, right? So he had to make an album that was similar to where he's coming from in his mindset, but similar where he's addressing beef. If you listen to Fall Off, he's talking about hometown beef, haters hating on what he decided to do, and then he talks about his family and growing up and making decisions for his family. Cool story, bro. We love it. Then you have Drake, who wanted to disconnect himself so far so that he was above the beef after his beef record was Some Sexy Songs for You. Y'all forgot that. Y'all forgot that project already because at the time people did not want to hear that. There was a contingent of maltsters that loved that shit, but people wanted to hear him go back hard. Give us that heavy Drake. He went up north and got soft and started singing with his partner, who we haven't seen since. So if you want to judge the three projects, there's all this thing that's happening, right? Where the top dog wants to get away from the beef, so he does Some Sexy Songs for You. The middle guy knows that he fucked up and wants to try to play cleanup in his records and in interviews. And then you have the other one who doesn't give a fuck and he's ready to swing whatever. So the industry knows Drake has to drop because Drake does not drop. the market doesn't move as quickly. There's not as many memes. There's not as many women putting their lyrics in his particular bios. But I'm telling you, we haven't seen that kind of Drake since 2017. You guys got to wake up. The market isn't dictated by that. You guys are stuck in those big three because you guys are millennial-based minded Gen. What was the one before us? Gen X minded people. Where the youth are on Destroy Lonely, Ken Carson, Yeet. That's why you see Drake with Yeet. You don't see him trying to do songs with Cole no more. That era's done. He's trying to measure up with the youth. Yeet, Ken Carson, Destroy Lonely, Denzel Curry, Jed. These are the new superstars of the youth are tapped in. You guys can't. The media is consistent because they have the money invested in these three huge entities. They want to see the success of it. They want to have access to it. They've seen it grow. They don't have access to these youth. These youth have seen what they've been doing, and they don't give a fuck what we're talking about right now. And that's exactly what I was saying about the Dr. Dyson talking to Hove, and Hove had, him going online to try to apologize for Hove. Like, dog, first of all, nobody cares. And Hove is finding out right now, dog, nobody cares. Like, the stand culture and shit is on your ass for a reason. And you know that. So you can't word salad do out of it and remind people who you are. Because if you remind people who you are, then people are going to also remind people what you said. Stay right there. Man, oh, what happened to the game I love? Now they're arguing, like you got so many people, pundits now, that are arguing whether, it's the battle, whether it's music. And we just forget progression happens. And it's always the people that decide. And if stand culture is such a big deal, I just don't understand. If stand culture is such a big deal, why don't we just turn the phones off for a minute? Why don't we just go outside and touch grass? It just appears that because the money's affected at these top three, that now we need to look at battles differently. Joey Badass had a great battle last year, and actually both parties, him, Ray Vaughn, TDE, all came together and did more music together, which led to Ray Vaughn having a moment himself, which led to his on the radar performance with that cipher that we just saw. Like the cipher, well, people don't understand, the cipher is an element of the battle. Like, I grew up as a whole fan, and one of the things that mystified me, when I say I grew up, I mean from like 15 up, right? Adult getting to teenage, understanding I'm not playing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles anymore. I'm trying to get me some money. I started listening to Hove. And when I started doing my research on Jay-Z, his claim to fame in the early to mid 90s was going in the street, having the ciphers, rapping with DMX, going up to Harlem, rapping with niggas, riding with Dame wherever, rap in the street, rap. Some of those verses we heard in the street, we heard on records. So we knew that Hove was a real artist because he was spitting that shit to your face. Like, bring your best rapper. I don't think Jay-Z put himself in danger. Not for with the guys he ran with. I don't think nobody was going to touch Jay-Z. You mean to tell me it was more dangerous then than it is now with a bunch of bots? That's all we're really dealing with. We're dealing with bots. Hip-hop is a expansive genre. People that are actually participating in the business of it and the growth and the expansion of it is a small percentage. It's a small percentage of executives. Then you got the artists themselves that are looking to position themselves amongst the executives and the brands. You have the brands that the executives are partnering with to find the money for said artists and ideas and things in their pockets, right? And then you have the street people who have the venues and whatnot, so the artists can come make money. Then you have us fans, right? You have the fans, and then you have independent media like myself that stays in between the gaps. I can't say we're in charge of everything, but we definitely help push the culture forward. Hip-hop just celebrated 50th birthday, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So with that being said, and they'll tell you that when Kool Herc and all those guys are throwing parties up in New York, there were similar movements happening to New Orleans. There were similar movements happening in Texas. There were similar movements happening in Florida and in the West Coast, right? Those artists were battling in their own, having their own ciphers, doing their own thing, making music, making a name for hip hop. So, I say that to say, like, what are we doing and what are we saying? And what are we really conveying to the youth? You know what I'm saying? Are we conveying to the youth that with opposition and progression, we have to destroy our institutions? Because if that's the case, if it's truly the case that the evils that we see online and whatnot are because of these platforms, what is that to say about the platforms that are raped, pillaged, destroyed our women? Why haven't we just said, I think we need to move past Victoria's Secret? I think we need to move past Bath and Body Works. It's dangerous out here. You got pastors calling off boycotts that they never were a part of, really. And when they're called to the fire, you ain't even heard from them. I think to myself, where have we heard this before, where this whole notion that from one person out of how many? One person out of billions of people, not even the founder of hip hop, not even the founder of professional sports, not even the founder of media, speaking about something they just got into, that they just became a part of, and now they're telling us that we got to move past it. Where have we seen this? Where have we seen it, guys? The Kaepernick situation. That's right, yeah. Kaepernick, right? Kaepernick on a superbly progressive movement, I would say. Like, I would say that he was actually creating a dent because, the NFL kind of didn't know really what to do. It wasn't just him. It was Malcolm Jenkins. It was a couple other players, I believe, that were standing up with Kaepernick as soon as they started to see that, hey, this guy's serious about this. And what's funny about that is there was no visibility of Jay-Z. I don't recall Jay-Z during that time. I don't recall Jay-Z being part of the process. I don't recall him stepping forward to be visible in his support of Kaepernick. I don't recall any of those things. But I do recall towards the end, once negotiations started to happen, which I have my critiques on Kaepernick on that. But once these things started to happen, you start to see this tide turn, and all of a sudden there's this huge press conference with Jay-Z at the table, Ty behind him, a well-known hitman for Jay-Z, or go forward person that gets things done. I respect to Ty, but we know Ty's the one that would get the blade for Hov. You told us that. That's not what we know that. And then behind him, there is a well-known felon, right? A well-known drug trafficker-ish type person that had ties with the cartel, who has responsibilities to countless of murders and drugs that come into the country. She's right behind him, smiling and cheesing, while he says, I think our next thing is trying to figure out moving forward. So you got a room full of villains trying to determine the progression of civil rights through sports. I ask you, since that moment, do you think the NFL has progressed? Or have pageantry got us to a particular point? Pageantry got us to the first black president in our eyes, even though there was countless of mixed race, melanated black presidents from Dwight Eisenhower, Abraham Lincoln, and even more, even John Hanson, right? But let's just unpack this real quick, just you and I. We have people that are being trafficked. I say people, I mean kids. Drugs being trafficked. All Kaepernick was saying was not enough black quarterbacks, not enough black coaches. We're not getting paid this equally the same. This whole system is a slave system. And you had Ho saying, how can we move things forward? What Ho says is, well, black folks need representation. So I'm just going to get every dancing nigga that I can find to represent these niggas. That's what he told Roger Goodell. I'm going to find some of the most shining, brightest black folks I can find, my G. And we're going to shut these niggas up. That's how we move it forward. So removing every element of opposition, every element of contrary, or every element, I'm trying to think of another word. What is it? Contention, right? Every level of contention, there is someone that looks like the parties that the contentious people are speaking from. Let's pull that person and then allow that person to speak for all of the people that are upset. You decide, man. You decide, man. You decide. It's like, come on now. Think about it. I just want us to use our novels. I just want us to use our brains. I just want us to think. I'm not saying Hov is a bad guy. I do say that room is full of villains because he said career crook. Ain't nobody rep Brooklyn like me. So everywhere he goes, I know he's representing Brooklyn. He's not representing black folks. He's representing Brooklyn. He's representing cars in Brooklyn. I'm just saying, though. I'm just saying. If you guys don't find it odd, I find it very interesting that all these battles happen. The only thing that people care about, Drake is not participating anymore. Yeah, light-skinned niggas win again.